Coverage of jobs and the economy is made possible in part by the Cleveland Foundation, the George Gund Foundation, the Kelvin and Eleanor Smith Foundation, the Eva L. and Joseph M. Bruning Foundation, Eaton Corporation, First Energy, the Nord Family Foundation, and the Harry K. Fox and Emma R. Fox Charitable Foundation.
The numbers are numbing. Plant closings idle hundreds, sometimes thousands of workers. It ripples through the economy, spreading more job loss. The latest figures have Ohio's unemployment rate at almost 8%. That's the highest it's been since the late 80s. But behind these cold statistics are individuals, fearful of what happens next, trying to hang on, and groping for their own bailout plan. Some communities are particularly vulnerable, those dependent on one company or one industry, struggling to survive in a shaky economy. Over the next half hour, we're going to bring you the stories of 3 Ohio towns on the edge and how they are coping in tough times.
Wilmington is very typical of small-town Ohio. Many of the buildings downtown date back to the early 20th century. The historic architecture reflects solid old community values. Among the most important, loyalty, be it buying from area businesses or supporting local athletic heroes. But recently, a different sort of community pride has been on display in Wilmington. These red lawn signs mark the homes of people who work for the package delivery jet service Airborne Express, or ABX, the largest employer in town. Or at least it was, until the company's German owner, DHL, recently decided to shut down its U.S. operations, leaving about 8,000 people in a 7-county region unemployed. The news of the DHL shutdown hit Jennifer Plank especially hard because she, her husband Jerry, and their son Nick all worked for ABX.
Really, at first, I didn't want to put the signs out. I don't know if maybe job loss is kind of like a personal failure, and I didn't want to advertise that.
The company has begun phased layoffs with announcements of a couple hundred people out of work almost every week. A third of Wilmington's households have at least one ABX employee.
You know, as I drove through the neighborhoods and across town and I saw so many signs, that's when I just decided that it was time to put those signs out, but I wanted to do more than just put a sign out. I wanted to let people know about, devoting 20 years to one company, and so that was my way of telling people our story.
The story of Wilmington begins with Quaker settlers, also known as the Society of Friends, who came to southwest Ohio in the early 1800s. Back then, farming was the economic base of the community, and 2 centuries later, agriculture remains a big local industry.
This chicken house is my wife's new project.
Kent Pickard and his wife Nancy have a small farm just outside of downtown Wilmington. Kent's been around here long enough to recall the glory days of Wilmington, back in the late 70s when an old World War II air base was bought and redeveloped by Airborne Express. Most of his farmhands found part-time work at ABX.
In this county, it's just about impossible to find a family that wasn't connected with the new Airborne.
Jennifer Plank met her future husband Jerry on the base. They were friends for a long time, and eventually they married.
There's not a lot of opportunity in this area. ABX was the main employer, and at that time my sons were little and it seemed like a good place to work, part-time, nighttime, come home, catch a few hours of sleep, take care of the boys during the daytime hours.
In 1984, Ron Riley was desperate for a job. 18 years old with a baby on the way, he not only needed a steady income, but medical insurance. He was intending to go to welding school, but then a friend told him about Airborne Express.
I started directly after graduation. 16 days later, our daughter was born, and I'd just gotten the insurance, so everything just fit perfectly. And it wasn't a hard job. It was fast-paced, but you enjoyed it.
At first, he was just working part-time, but he still got full benefits, and the pay wasn't bad.
Started out at $8.05. And at that time, I couldn't have gotten a full-time welding job and made the same money.
And gradually, farmland alongside the base started growing a different sort of product.
There's a tremendous amount of growth as exemplified by fast foods, other businesses. A lot of service businesses came in to service the base, and they're important employers too.
The air base grew, and Wilmington grew right along with it, providing jobs to workers in surrounding counties. ABX became the third largest private express delivery company in the country, and that attracted the attention of the German-based international shipping firm DHL. In 2003, DHL acquired Airborne, and with it, ownership of the Wilmington Air Park. The city would become DHL's U.S. domestic hub in a move designed to challenge the national dominance of rival carriers Federal Express and UPS. For a local businessman like Walter Peel, all of this growth in his hometown was exciting.
We've had an influx of new people. It's been kind of fun. It's been an energy process. It's just been a lot of fun until May.
On May 28th of last year, DHL's management announced that the company had lost hundreds of millions of dollars on its U.S. operations. The company revealed drastic plans to stop the hemorrhaging. It would shut down its shipping service in the U.S. and slash thousands of jobs in the process.
You really don't think about it until you see those signs dotted across the neighborhoods before you realize just how many people. And then you realize, my gosh, there's so many of us that work out there, and the whole ripple effect, that it's going to have on the small businesses here in town, and the restaurants, and the department stores, the car dealerships, everybody.
Ford salesman David Resk says the DHL announcement couldn't have come at a worse time.
All this news really severely impacts our car sales, on top of the bad economic problems that we're having.
Flagging auto sales are troubling, but it's the loss of all those local jobs that has David Resk really worried, because Resk is also mayor of Wilmington. Traditionally, the mayor's job in this city has been part-time, but in the past few months, he's put in a lot of extra hours in strategy meetings with local and state officials.
We're not going to lay down and roll over and play dead on this deal, and everybody's been fighting and working together to try to make the best of this as we can.
And I'm deeply troubled by the specter of job loss confronting the town of Wilmington and this entire area.
Last year's presidential contest brought both major party candidates to town. John McCain and Barack Obama both pledged federal aid, and David Resk is hoping the new president will follow through on his campaign promise to help Wilmington.
Now, realize that in June, the economic conditions were a heck of a lot different than they are today, and he certainly has a lot on his plate today. But I am hopeful that sometime in the near future, I'll be afforded the chance to go meet with him.
So far, the federal government has allocated money for retraining ABX employees who have lost their jobs, although there's no immediate prospect of nearby employment for upwards of 8,000 people. For its part, the state of Ohio is providing funding for the Wilmington Business Resource Center, which is counseling small businesses on how to stay afloat in tough economic times. But no bailouts for small businesses are in the offing, no infusion of cash or bridge loans to get them through the coming months. Despite all the negative news, Jennifer Plank holds on to hope.
I'm a Pollyanna. I think that something's going to happen, and something positive, and I've always been a glass is half full kind of person anyway, and so I'm not going to abandon that now.
Ron Riley is looking into the retraining possibilities. He, too, is hoping the new president can get the economy back on track.
If I could say something to Barack Obama, I'd say try and get the manufacturing base back in our country. Because as you look for a job right now, how many people do we need to serve each other food or to welcome each other to Walmart?
City and state officials are hoping to redevelop the Wilmington Air Park, which they say is the most sophisticated private airport in the country. But Cleveland State economist Ned Hill says that's not going to be easy.
We're in the middle of a recession. and it's going to be very difficult to get financing for it. So that's going to be a long slog.
In the meantime, Ron Riley, Jennifer Plank, and thousands of others have to focus on more immediate concerns like keeping food on the table, keeping clothes on their kids, and paying the mortgage on all those houses with the red signs in their front lawns.
The job losses facing Wilmington are staggering, but there are also people in other parts of Ohio that are equally worried about their town's biggest employer getting through the economic crunch. Take the tiny Northeast Ohio village of Lordstown, population 3,500. Normally on a Tuesday afternoon, these workers would be making cars, but the General Motors plant here is temporarily closed as the auto giant struggles to survive. So auto workers like former teacher Bobby Jo Marsh are sprucing up their union hall and figuring out what's next.
And I'm just going to wait. I could retire from here and then go back to teaching. So it's up in the air for me. I'm just going to take one day at a time.
GM's Lordstown plant is the Mahoning Valley's biggest employer. As many as 5,000 people worked at the plant last year. But there have been rounds of layoffs and work slowdowns in recent months, and GM just announced that one of the 2 remaining shifts will be eliminated in April. Lordstown Assembly, though, has something special, the promise of a new car in 2010. Straight ahead, we see how the game plan for many here is to wait and see if they and their company can last until then.
Play it by ear is the mantra in this Northeast Ohio village. The workers here have seen plenty of strikes and layoffs, but despite the ups and downs, General Motors has been a pillar of this community for decades.
It's the backbone, the cornerstone of the Mahoning Valley. It brings in the most revenue. It's the largest contributor to charitable organizations.
GM's Lordstown plant opened in 1966, turning quiet farmland along the north side of the Ohio Turnpike into a major center of employment. Workers turned out millions of cars and vans. Mike Sullivan moved to Lordstown in 1973 and bought a house here when he took a job at the complex.
This is the development that I talked about. It's probably the only place that was built because of the plant, and probably at least 50% of the people live in this development either work for or have something to do with the auto industry.
70% of the village's budget comes from the payroll taxes of plant employees. They're prized local jobs.
The people are nice. It's like one big family. Everybody works as a team.
And is it the best money you've ever made?
Yes.
2008 started off well for Lordstown. In June, GM added 1,400 workers to keep up with the growing demand for Lordstown's fuel-efficient cars. When your town is so closely tied to one employer, their ups and downs become yours. Mayor Michael Chafee says 2008 was an emotional roller coaster.
August rolls around. CEO Rick Wagner comes down.
GM will invest more than $500 million to build our all-new global compact car, the Chevy Cruze, in the U.S., including more than $350 million right here in the Lordstown complex.
Middle of September, the credit crunch hits, and the bottom completely falls out of the auto industry, both domestically and worldwide.
As banks made it tougher to get car loans and the whole economy was in need of life support, auto sales collapsed. Sales of Lordstown's Chevy Cobalts plummeted in late 2008. New cars with nowhere to go.
Now see, this is where they have all the cars that they store. Now, a month and a half ago, that was completely full. I'm hoping that's a good sign that the field is dwindling.
Washington lawmakers okayed more than $13 billion for GM and Chrysler, but not soon enough to help Lordstown in the short term with its car glut. GM's layoffs and a plant shutdown quickly hit nearby companies. Tom Humphreys, president and CEO of the Youngstown-Warren Regional Chamber, says the plant generates another 12,500 spin-off jobs in the region. Humphreys worries government aid can't keep up with the speed of business.
Everything's moving so much quicker. That's why I think government has to start moving quicker. If they don't, I think we're going to see ourselves paralyzed.
Then there are all the small businesses that depend on auto workers' dollars, like Lordstown's California Pizza. Owner Mark McGrail says as much as 50% of his customers come from the local plant. He's kept open his convenience store, but has already closed his pizza delivery business during the day.
I'm hoping that the cobalts, which is produced out here in Lordstown, that are sitting on lots across the country, sell. Because as soon as they sell those, this plant will reopen to start production on new cars, which means the employees will come back, which means they'll begin, buying from us. But it's a wait and see type of situation at this point.
Now laid off, auto workers are getting to those honey-do lists at home and at the union hall. But there's also soul-searching as employees reluctantly consider the possibility of a future outside of GM.
It's hard to want to go start somewhere else and possibly give all this up, with all the time you've invested. But there comes a point where you got to do what you have to do to survive.
I'm still weighing my options about, certain trade schools and certain colleges that I might be able to do that we're having some downtime. But it's still I'm pretty focused on, being an auto worker. I'm not going to let that go too easy.
The automakers and the UAW are negotiating changes to their labor contract to meet conditions set by the terms of the federal loan. On deck, wages and benefits that some lawmakers want cut to bring them into line with workers at foreign auto plants in the U.S. That's a very hard pill for Lordstown workers to swallow.
I seen one of these talk shows saying that auto workers making $70 an hour. Well, I don't know what auto worker that was, but my 35 years, the most that I ever made was 26, I believe.
But add on the costs of GM retirees' pensions and health care packages and divide it by the number of active workers, and the cost per employee rises.
The old joke is that if you bought a Toyota, you got a free Sirius radio, and if you bought a GM, you got a health care plan you couldn't use. That's kind of a problem.
Talking about wages is a very difficult thing, and I think that some more concessions are coming. I think we all see that writing on the wall.
And so do others sitting in GM's wake. For 2009, the village of Lordstown is scaling back road paving, and its employees have agreed to a pay freeze.
We're hoping to get through, and we're still in pretty good shape. But if the downturn continues, or the longer it goes, or God forbid something happens to the plant, then obviously the effects would be catastrophic for us.
For now, though, this region waits to see if GM can hold on till 2010, when the new fuel-efficient Chevy Cruze is slated to roll off the Lordstown assembly lines.
While the people of Lordstown tighten their belts and pin their hopes on the revival of the U.S. auto industry, there's a different story to be told in the central part of the state. That's thanks in large part to Japan's Honda Corporation, which opened its first American car plant in Marysville in 1982. Since then, Honda has opened a second assembly plant in East Liberty, a transmission factory in Russell's Point, and an engine plant in Anna, all of them small towns that were transformed by the presence of the Japanese corporate giant. That's especially true in Anna, a sleepy little village in west-central Ohio, one of the dozens that dot the Shelby County landscape around the central city of Sydney. Just before Honda arrived, the local economy was on the ropes.
In 1983, this area of Ohio, Sydney, Shelby County, was beset with a 20% unemployment rate. In other words, 1 in 5 people was unemployed.
That changed 2 years later, when the largest Honda engine plant in the world opened on the outskirts of Anna. In a few moments, you'll see the impact that this $1.5 billion facility has had on Shelby County. You'll also hear what folks down here think about the big three, the bailout, and their own future, in a time when good fortune can turn on a dime.
Like Wilmington, a big international company came to Anna one day and put the tiny Ohio town on the map. The story of how that happened can be found in the conference room of the West Ohio Development Council. The council was formed in 1983 with the aim of rebuilding the region. One of their first successes was helping assemble the several hundred acres of land that Honda needed to build the Anna facility. Executive Director Mike Dodds says that brought waves of development.
The multiplier effect of manufacturing jobs in this area is considerable.
A network of Honda offshoots has grown around the Anna facility, and not just auto parts suppliers. Housing developments have spread into former farmland, along with new schools for a new population. And retail is on the rise along a busy I-75 corridor, which carries over 5,500 workers to and from the Honda plant or an associated industry. Terry Cooper has been making that commute from nearby Shelby for 20 years. She makes good money, although factory work wasn't exactly the career path of her dreams.
I really didn't know anything about engines, and I didn't want to know anything about engines. I actually work on the line, and it's broken into 4 quarters, and I change jobs every quarter, and I know probably 10 different jobs, and I also final inspect, and it goes to the transfer and out the door, and goes to Marysville or Canada or wherever.
Yes, the Central Ohio car industry is on a roll, and that's made some here less than sympathetic about Detroit's woes. The spectacle of the big 3 automakers pleading for bailout money in Washington hasn't gone over very well here at the In Between Tavern, a popular watering hole for area workers and businessmen.
I mean, if I'm going to bail them out, what kind of deal are they going to cut me on a new car? My taxpayers are going to bail out some CEO making millions of dollars? I don't think so. I don't agree with it.
Jerry Harrod is no fan of the GM Chrysler bailout either, and he wonders how big it will be when all is said and done.
The automotive workers have been living on Easy Street for a long time, and they're going to have to scrape up some of that big money they earned and start using it now.
Despite the relative prosperity here, signs of the recession are not hard to find. Some of those satellite companies, part suppliers who service Honda as well as the big 3, are cutting back. And social service groups like the Alpha Community Center in Sydney, which feeds the hungry, are seeing their business boom.
And we are inundated with calls. I will get 30 or 35 calls a day. Some of our local companies have laid off, and some of them are permanent. We've had work reduction in terms of work week. They've had hours cut back and things like that. And so I know that that people are feeling the pinch.
In Exodus 13, he spoke from... As pastor of Sydney First United Methodist Church, Reverend Chris Heckerman delivers a weekly sermon to hundreds of people from the Shelby County area. A growing number of his congregants are hurting.
Within the last 6 months or so, we've really seen that margin of survivability for middle-class families and lower-middle-class families slip away to nothing, virtually. And so the requests for help with rent or food or fuel or utilities, that margin of sustainability between survival and failure, there is no margin anymore.
Last month's news that Honda was going to slow down vehicle production in response to plunging auto sales sent some jitters through the Shelby County region, but West Ohio Development's Mike Dodds says he takes the current economic downturn with a grain of salt.
People talk about the drastic recession we're going through. When you look at the numbers 25 years ago and the numbers today, it kind of pales in comparison.
Cleveland State's Ned Hill says the past also has lessons for small towns whose economies are connected to one big company.
You know, if you're Anna, you aren't going to turn down an engine plant. You know, you're essentially betting on a good 10 to 20 year ride. But you're only as good as your company's products and your company's strategies. And when the product goes south or the strategy doesn't work, the locality is going to pay the price.
As towns on the edge, communities like Wilmington and Lordstown are getting special attention from leaders in Columbus and Washington. But to meet the immediate needs of these displaced workers, to help them acquire new skills for new jobs, a lot more needs to be done. Much is riding on the Obama administration's new stimulus plan. He says it will generate 4 million new jobs. But it comes at the same time many states, including Ohio, are preparing deep cuts in government services, and unemployment continues to rise. All to say that there are many more towns and cities on the edge, and others could be there soon.
coverage of jobs and the economy is made possible in part by the Cleveland Foundation, the George Gund Foundation, the Kelvin and Eleanor Smith Foundation, the Eva L. and Joseph M. Bruning Foundation, Eaton Corporation, First Energy, the Nord Family Foundation, and the Harry K. Fox and Emma R. Fox Charitable Foundation.